Most men think divorce is the end, and I used to think that too, until I realized it's not the end. It's an initiation, and most men will fail it. Not because they're weak, but because nobody tells them what it really is. See, everything gets ripped away from you: the house, the routine, the identity that you built around her. You finally meet yourself, not the version that was trying to keep the peace, not the version that was bending to make everyone else comfortable, the real version of you. And if you're honest, a lot of what you built your life wasn't even yours. It was for her, for the image, for the family you were trying to hold together. I know that because I lived it. I gave everything to someone who didn't give it back the same way. And when it collapsed, I didn't just lose a relationship, I lost who I thought I was. There were nights I was ready to quit. I was ready to disappear, ready to say, this isn't worth it anymore. And that's the part that nobody talks about. But here's what I figured out throughout this process: that breaking point, that's the doorway. You either let it bury you or you walk through it and become someone that you've never been before.
Yeah, I can agree with him, man. A lot of times, as somebody who wants to be a provider and a protector, a lot of like, and that goes both sides of the fence, not just a man, but you really sacrifice like your happiness. A lot of times, you sacrifice your dreams, you sacrifice your comfort, because as men, we're bare bones. Like we don't need much to be happy. Like you could get a man, just give him a cot somewhere, space to sleep, some food in the refrigerator, clean, decent spot, and we'll be okay, you know. But once you uh, get a family, you start to upgrade the house. You get the cars to accommodate the kids. She wants to be comfortable, so you got to put her in a better location. You know, she wants a nicer vehicle. She wants to eat at nicer places. She wants to travel now. So all that things, nicer cookware, you know, it's like all those things that come with like that men don't care about, they come from a relationship. So a lot of times it's like changing your identity to be a protector, a leader, a provider. So I could see the toll it could take on somebody that you put so much of that forward and it's not reciprocated. And that's why it's extremely important in selection is the person you choose to be with. And a lot of times people change and you can be deceived, but I think it's really important to have certain, I guess, standards, not just standards, but just certain ways of screening women and the people you deal with, whether it's a man or a woman, of screening and making sure that they qualify and you guys are equally yoked. Because when you don't, it sounds like he was putting her on a pedestal again, and now he's in a predicament where he's poured into her in the relationship, and he's divorced, and now he's trying to find himself. And I see that happening on both sides, but I'm only speaking from a man's perspective to this video because I know what it is. I'm a father. I have a small family, and I know how it feels to sacrifice everything from your sleep to your mental well-being, everything just to put it online because you want to make sure your family is taken care of and comfortable and you giving them opportunity for success. But I also think it's about having a balance and also making sure that the person you decide to divest this energy into or invest this energy into will definitely be somebody who's going to reciprocate it and make sure they understand that, hey, these are our goals and this is the direction we're headed, and we're both going to do whatever we can to align and make sure that we're successful together.
Walking through it isn't pretty. It looks like sitting alone with your thoughts when everything in you wants to run. It looks like letting go of things you thought mattered and realizing they never did. It looks like you rebuilding your life based on what you actually value, not what you were told to value. Because most men in marriage become people pleasers. They want to please the one person in their life that's controlling everything. We sacrifice who we are to keep everything calm. We trade our standards for approval. We trade our identity to keep the family together. And then we wonder why we feel empty. Your divorce didn't happen to destroy you. It happened to show you who you were when you abandoned yourself.
I kind of get what he's saying, but at the same time, I think a lot of times it does destroy you because let's take his word for it, and you never lost yourself in the marriage. You're still either at jeopardy of losing your finances, your housing. Depending on how it happens in the marriage, it could potentially jeopardize your personal and work life. You know, because you guys are intertwined. So there's major impacts outside of you just focusing on yourself and knowing who you are and having an identity outside of your family. I don't think it's just the fact that, hey, if I have an identity outside of my family, it wouldn't be as damaging. Yeah, maybe so, because you're focused and you have something to focus on, and but it's almost impossible in a sense. Like, yeah, you can have your own identity, but the routines and the things you do, you're going to have to do to take care of your family. So I'm following him. And I could see that losing yourself is always the most painful part, because when you know how much you gave up and sacrifice for somebody's happiness and they're never happy. So I can understand how that could be like very traumatizing to be like, all right, I gave you everything. I've changed who I am. And a lot of times it's like, let's be real. Women get in a situation or a relationship or a marriage thinking they could change a man. Like a man gets in a situation or a marriage or a relationship accepting who she is, and a lot of times we want them to change and we both want to change, but it's like there's only certain things that you can change from somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things you can improve, but like changing who somebody is. And let me clarify this. Like, for example, if you know your man's not ambitious and he's not trying to be an entrepreneur, you're not going to change that about him. Can you change his manners, his habits? Can you change the information, whether he grows, he becomes more cultured and travel? All those things can change, but the root core or who he is, like, don't think you can make him a Forbes list top earner if that's not in his DNA, and vice versa for a man or a woman. Like, you can't make them be something that they don't want to be or don't have. I'm not going to say the potential or the desire, more so to be. So it's like, yeah, within limits, you expect people to change. And I think so, especially as being a leader in a relationship, you always want to be putting them in the right direction and yourself in the right direction so you can improve and grow. And I think that's extremely important. And then if you are in that role, a woman that is submissive, like, okay, great, equality, that's all good, but I believe in God, man, woman, and children. So if you don't agree, great. You can have a marriage where it's led by the woman. That's great. That's good. Never will be here. Never never on this side of the fence. So you can say what you will. I don't feel it should be that way. I think you should respect your woman. A lot of times, like, women don't understand, being feminine, you have so much control over the situation. Like, a woman that knows how to use her femininity is the ultimate, like, controller, because there's so much power in being able to be persuasive. And I'm not saying in a negative way, but you have so much control when you know that that's a man's soft point. It's like, you can't fight fire with fire a lot of times. Like, we were made and designed differently for a reason, like, for us to try to fight our nature, our biology, women will never think like men and men will never think or feel like women. And we have to understand that that's the strengths and weaknesses that we are supposed to pair together to make up for. But instead, we got sex wars where people are fighting so much hate and vitriol for men, and then you got people in red pill that some of them, like I said, it is hate. Like, you in a sense, you grow, I guess, a resentment in a sense, because how a lot of men have been treated. Because no matter how you look as a woman these days, I could tell you, with social media, it's made the world so much smaller. You could literally be a 5 or 4 and somebody's in your DMs willing to give it to you. It's so much easier for women to connect or get laid or have the opportunity to interact sexually with the opposite sex than it is for men. And there's a lot of men that's out there suffering that they don't even have the opportunity to do so.
And that's the truth people don't want to hear. And if you do this right, if you stop numbing it, stop running from it, and you actually face it, you come out of this completely different, stronger, clearer, and unshakable. Not perfect, but present. A better man, a better father, a man who finally knows who the hell he is. But you don't get that version of you without getting through the dark times. You don't get clarity without confusion. You don't get strength without pain. So if you're in it right now, good. That means you're in the process. Don't waste it. Because this pain, this is where you either fold or you become dangerous in the best way fucking possible. A man who doesn't abandon himself anymore. A man who stays, no matter what. Follow me, because we're building something great, and I want you to be a part of that. Most men think divorce.
Yeah, I definitely agree with him. Like in a sense, it's important to keep yourself, but I also think that anytime you go through something that's like traumatic or life changing, that's an opportunity for drastic growth. So it's up to you whether you take advantage of it or not. So I don't think it's just solely about being in a relationship and then you abandoning who you are that can help that stage of evolution. It's what you decide to do going through that process. Like you said, if you're really taking ownership and understanding what can I do to improve and focus on myself and my purpose, and it always goes back to that. A man who focuses on his purpose can have the world, honestly. And it's like never lose track of that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you lose yourself in a divorce when you just cater to the other person and you give yourself entirely too much and there's not a balance? Or does it matter of the person that you're giving yourself to? And I think that's a lot of it, because it sounds like it was not reciprocated, because you could have somebody that could pour into you just as equally as he was giving out, and that might be a completely different situation. So it's one-sided. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Turn on post notifications. I'm gonna catch you later. Peace.